Who's actually going to get the most out of this LAN gamer mini PC, and who should just keep scrolling? If you're a college student living in a dorm, a commuter who wants a full-size gaming experience without lugging a tower around, or a small space apartment dweller who still wants to drop into AAA titles at 1080p with eye candy, this might be the sweet spot. If you're a hardcore 4K enthusiast or someone who builds their own rigs for the fun of tweaking every component, you'll probably feel the constraints right away. And of course, the big question, does the price make sense for a normal everyday buyer? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first saw this little 8-liter box, my gut reaction was the same as anyone else scrolling past a pre-built. Is this just a glorified console in a box, or does it actually give me the flexibility I need? The answer isn't as simple as a yes or no, because the LAN gamer packs a surprisingly hefty set of components for its size, but it also forces a few compromises that only become obvious once you start using it day to day. Let's start with the hardware inside. The heart of the machine is an AMD Ryzen 7 8700F. That's an 8-core, 16-thread CPU that clocks up to 4.1 GHz. In real-world terms, it handles modern titles like Cyberpunk 2077 or Elden Ring without choking on CPU-bound scenarios, and it's more than enough for multitasking. Think streaming, Discord, and a web browser all running while you game. Pair that with the RTX 5070, which, while not a flagship GPU, still offers 12 GB of GDDR7 memory and plenty of ray tracing horsepower for 1080p and decent 1440p performance. In my testing, Shadow of the Tomb Raider ran at a steady 7075 frames per second on high settings, and Fortnite never dipped below 120 frames per second, even with shadows and DLSS enabled. The RAM and storage are where this little beast really shines. 32 GB of DDR5 RAM feels almost overkill for a gaming PC, but that headroom translates into smoother scene loads and less stutter when you have a lot of background applications open. The 2TB Gen 4 NVMe SSD shaves seconds off boot times, and more importantly, it can hold several large games without you having to constantly manage space. I've got Red Dead Redemption 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 all installed simultaneously, and load times are consistently under 10 seconds, a noticeable upgrade over a traditional HDD or even a SATA SSD. Now, let's talk about the case. The 8.1-liter metal shell is surprisingly sturdy for a pre-built mini IDX. The leather handle gives it a portable vibe, and you can actually move it from a bedroom desk to a living room couch without a hitch. The internal layout, however, is tight. There's a single 120mm fan that does most of the cooling work, and while the chassis does a decent job of venting warm air, you'll hear the fan spin up under heavy loads. In a quiet apartment, that fan noise can be noticeable. Think 3540 dB during a long battlefield session. If silence is your top priority, that's a trade-off you need to weigh. One of the hidden trade-offs is the lack of internal expansion options. The mini IDX board leaves only one M.2 slot free, which is already occupied by the 2TB SSD. Adding a second drive, even a SATA SSD, means you'll have to use an external enclosure or forego the extra storage altogether. The same goes for future GPU upgrades. The RTX 5070 is soldered onto the board in a way that makes swapping it out virtually impossible. If you're banking on upgrading the graphics card over the next few years, this system isn't built for that. It's a buy once, enjoy for a few years package rather than a platform you can tinker with. From a software standpoint, the machine ships with Windows 11 Pro pre-installed, which is great if you're already in the Microsoft ecosystem. The OS is clean, and the drivers for the Ryzen CPU and RTX GPU are up to date right out of the box. There's also built-in Wi-Fi, which is a nice touch for a compact PC. No need to reach for a dongle. The network performance I measured in a typical 2 gigabit home line was stable, with latency staying under 20 milliseconds for online gaming. That said, the Wi-Fi antenna is tucked behind the metal casing, so the signal can be a hit or miss depending on where you place the PC. A quick test on a metal desk versus a wooden desk showed a 510% drop in signal strength on the metal surface. Who should buy this? The answer boils down to the ready-to-play crowd that doesn't want to build a PC from scratch, but still wants something more powerful than a console. I've seen college roommates set this up in a dorm hallway and plug it into a 27-inch monitor for movie nights and gaming sessions. The integrated keyboard and mouse, complete with RGB lighting, are functional enough for casual play, though you'll want a proper mechanical keyboard if you're into competitive shooters. For anyone who travels a lot, for example, a digital nomad who stays